This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on board. We are sitting here on this very hot afternoon with the smallest carnivores in the Lowveld, dwarf mongoose, who are currently sharing their termite mound with a giant plated lizard who we're waiting on. So once again, welcome aboard to your very own safari, coming to you live from the African bush. Our mongoose here, I've got a little bit camera shy, just the same as the plated lizard, but I think it's going to be worth it to sit here a little while and see if more heads pop up out of this termite mound, which appears to be one of their favourite. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera, and we're coming to you live from Djuma Game Reserve in South Africa. But it's not just us out today. We will be coming to you from 5 different locations with 6 safari vehicles. So I'm more than sure that it's going to be an action-packed drive on this hot day, around 24 degrees Celsius. But because we are live and we are interactive, you can talk to us. Send in your comments and questions using the hashtag WildEarth. Or kids, if you're watching and you're under 18 years old, you're welcome to send in your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv via email. So we very much look forward to answering all of the questions that you may have. And Amanda, yes, they are so cute. They're very, very cute, but looks can be deceiving because they're ferocious carnivores. The smallest of all the carnivores you get out here. And I'm sure there's many of them inside. A group of mongoose together is called a business. And we were actually on our way to the hyena den, and believe it or not, they are the hyena's closest relatives. Yes, so I think we're going to sit tight here for a little while and see if that lizard makes another appearance.
Good afternoon and welcome to this end of our wonderful show. We're on a live safari from the northeastern corner of Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is of course on the western fringes of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have got BK Bokomoso. There is his thumb. Isn't it a fine thumb? And it's lovely to have you all on board our game drive. We're sitting here at a waterhole with a whole big herd of buffalo. I think there were probably about 150 of them in and around the water. And they've been pretty much in this area the whole day. We found them grazing nearby this morning, and I hoped they would come down during the hottest part of the day and have a bit of a drink. And that is precisely what they are doing. They won't all be drinking right now. They'll just rest near the water, settle themselves in the shade. Now, if you'd like to ask us any questions, please do that using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, you can send through questions, if you're a kid, to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And while you think about something to ask, let's head across to the Kalahari, where Dylan is waiting to say hello.
Good afternoon again from this beautiful day at Tswalu Kalahari with Jandre and myself, Dylan. Jandre is working his magic on the camera as always. It is good to have you all with us. Any new viewers out there, wherever you may be, it's fantastic. Yeah, and it's great having you out on this live safari with us. I'm just so excited. You know, we come here and we're driving along what appears to be this sort of grey, brown, cream wilderness at the moment, middle of the winter, and yet look at this beauty that is all around us. Yeah, this is just one example. This little guy here is called the grelium. Okay, and it is a really important plant in some areas. The roots are very, very palatable. You'll even get things like Dika, Steenbuck, Gemsbuck digging these plants out at certain times of the year if water's in very short abundance and very, very good forage. So they'll actually dig these out. That's just one in about a 30 square meter area around us here. I've got 8 different flowering plants, and not just flowering plants, but actually flowering at the moment. This is in the middle of winter. Think of that. That is absolutely incredible. Here's another little one. Many of you won't know this yellow one, the grelium, but here's one that many of you will recognize from home. This gorgeous little flower here, you may not recognize the exact species, but you'll know everlastings. Everlastings with a little pink center and yellow center as it gets older. So again, that's a species that is very, very common in the horticulture trade, in the flower trade. So that genus is very common. So it just shows you what diversity is out here, even in the deepest part of winter.
Good afternoon, Game Reserve here in KwaZulu-Natal. My name is Damon, and behind the camera we've got Marcel this afternoon, and we've come out into the plains beneath the Ubombo Mountains behind us. We've managed to find 2 white rhinos. And looks like they're busy grazing. Here through the microphone just how
Sorry about that. I think we lost some audio there, but we are out here in the wild, and sometimes that happens. Technology, well, it's amazing, but not when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Now, no sign of the lizard just yet, but I really think it's worth waiting for. 2 completely different species, one a mammal, another a reptile, sharing the same termite mound, sitting together, sunbathing. It's one of the most amazing things to see, and they actually have a mutualistic, symbiotic relationship. They assist one another. Well, why is that? The mongoose actually look out for the lizard by alarm calling if there's a threat, and the lizard eats their feces, which means he keeps the den clean. So it's a win-win situation all round. Shamesy, normally on average in a dwarf mongoose business, there's about 12 to 15 individuals. Now it can be smaller, it can be bigger. It really depends on a lot of environmental factors, but on average 12 to 15. And the whole business is dominated by an alpha pair. So that's an alpha male, an alpha female, and they're in charge of the rest of the individuals. All the other individuals support the alpha breeding pair, and the ones at the top are the only ones that will reproduce. All others will assist in that effort, babysit, clean, feed. Everybody helps the alpha pair bring up the offspring. They're very, very social animals, very cooperative, and very intelligent. Come on, little lizard, everybody wants to see you. Actually, not that little. Giant plated lizards are quite large, as the name suggests. But it's just a wonderful sighting to see 2 very different species sitting together, assisting one another. Dwarf mongoose also have a great relationship with hornbills. They work together. Teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Now, I've only seen 4 mongoose here, but I'm sure there's many, many more inside. So just a reminder, everyone, please do send in your questions. That's why we're here. We'll try our very best to answer them. #WildEarth or @KidsQuestions. So we're going to sit tight and hope the lizard makes an appearance. We'll be back very shortly. Still no sign of the lizard, but our little dwarfies are posing perfectly for us. This is such a wonderful sighting. Sitting here next to this termite mound looking at these very, very small carnivores. And of course this is live, happening right now. So do send in your questions. Don't make them too difficult. Or you can put us to the test and we'll do our very best. Now they're listening, they're looking, they've got great senses. They'll always look up. If you ever watch these mongoose, you'll see them always look at the sky because their predators also come from that direction. They have terrestrial predators that come from the ground, but they also have aerial predators like big birds of prey that will swoop down and grab them from the ground. So we're going to give it about 5 more minutes. I've got my fingers and toes crossed that we get to see this reptile soon.
Now we've come round to the other side of the waterhole here for 2 reasons. One, so we can get a good look at the hippo. There are 5 or 6 of them in here, just 3 that we can see so far. And also we heard some squirrels going and some arrow-marked babblers, which are birds going, and they were obviously seeing something that they thought might be a predator. Ewald, it is my humble opinion that to describe any animal as dangerous in Africa is to be unfair to it. So no, I don't think they're dangerous. I think they are potentially dangerous. So lots of animals out here are potentially dangerous, and they become dangerous when they are threatened. And as long as you understand that aggression and dangerous behavior comes from an animal being threatened, and as long as you can then work out what makes that animal threatened, then you can avoid them being dangerous and they're not dangerous. So for example, I'm not going to get out of the car and go walking up to these hippo, or swimming up to the hippo, or walking up to the buffalo, because that would be silly, and that might provoke some kind of dangerous reaction from them. And the reason it would provoke that from them is that they see me as a predator. They see me as something dangerous. So as long as I don't behave in a way that makes the animal feel threatened, normally they are not dangerous. So I've walked very close to buffalo by mistake before and not threatened them because I haven't given them a fright. They've seen me coming and they've just left me alone. There's a tiny baby hippo there, BK. You got it? Yes, look at it. Oh, that's too cute. It's standing on its mum's back and it's giving us a little territorial yawn. Isn't that cute? And people will tell you, Ewald, that hippo are the most dangerous animals in Africa. Well, they do kill people sometimes, but that's because they live in water and people often come down to water, and often people separate hippo from the water, and then they do become very dangerous. Eshra, yes, hippos can jump. I've seen little baby hippos jumping up and down. And so, yeah, they can. Apparently the only mammal in the world that is unable to jump, or only land mammal in the world that's unable to jump, is an elephant. Oh, that's just too wonderful. Look at them all there. And they've got oxpeckers on them. I think we'll sit here a little bit longer and see what else comes down to the water.
So while we're on the topic of some flowers, I just wanted to show you this really, really interesting little plant over here. And why I say it's interesting is it's a very unique growth form, but it's also a very, very important one in this area for a number of bird species, well, notably 2 bird species, and those are the sunbirds. So these little plants are called acrotome, okay, acrotome inflata meaning like blown out, like these little seedheads are, nice and round. But these things have got the most minuscule little white, sometimes almost mauve-colored flowers. But they're crucially important for sunbirds. Maybe just a month earlier than we are now. So going into winter already, when a lot of the other resources are becoming very, very scarce, these plants provide a very, very, very important food source for them. There's actually studies that have been done on these in some areas, and they've been shown to they've got very, very good, strong antibacterial properties. That hasn't been taken further, but it just shows you what's out in these environments. And we still don't know we haven't even got a small handle on the potential in these kind of ecosystems. Now I'm going to try something. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. It's a very soft sound, but these seed heads, these flower heads are just full of seeds. And yeah, so you can hear that nicely. And so these little seed heads, as they break off, they dry, they break off, they roll, and then these seed heads will get dispersed over the landscape. So this is a really fun plant.
We haven't moved, and our hippos are starting to become quite interested in us. The little one was yawning again there. So that's just a territorial grunt. That's probably from the mother hippo. It's definitely not the little one that made that noise. And it's one of my favourite sounds out here, especially at night. It's a very comforting sound to hear. And now everything's calming down. It's quite a warm afternoon. I'd say it's probably around about 20 degrees, and if you're out of the rain, out of the wind, it's probably hotter. It's probably around 25. And so the buffalo are enjoying the warmth after a chilly day, and the hippos are enjoying the peace of the sun on their heads, but at the same time the comfort of the water, which allows them to lie down and take the weight off their feet. They don't have to hold their own weight even. Anna, I don't actually know. I've never touched a hippopotamus's skin. I think you'll probably find that it is quite slimy if you touched it now, and that's just because it's been in the water. They do produce a substance from the skin that helps to protect it from the sun, which is quite slimy, so I suppose it depends on how much of that substance they've produced and how much they haven't. A hippo that's been out of the water for some time, I suspect you'll find, has a fairly dry skin. Oh, that's very cute. He's so sleepy. He's still watching you carefully, though.
Everyone, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the brand new members of the Djuma clan of hyenas. If any of you were on board with us yesterday, we sat for a whole hour waiting on these two bundles of joy, or should I say trouble. They are Ribbon's sons. We believe they're both boys from what we can gather, but that's a little bit tricky to figure out. I'll tell you why a little bit later on. And here they are. This is Ribbon, the matriarch. She's a very obvious ear. Her left ear has a sort of, well, dent in it. We call this her butterfly ear. So she's really easy to identify. She's now the matriarch, and this is her two... Can you hear them? And of course, it's precious time with Mom. They're suckling. The milk bar is open, and I hope they're going to stay with us for the rest of the show. They're just over 3 months old now. We managed to see them when they were very, very young. The Djuma clan is small in terms of females. There's only 5 adult females, so this is a new generation. So I'm not going anywhere. Please stay tuned. So everyone who's still on board with us, we are in an app break with SABC, but we're still live with you all online. And isn't this just wonderful? I must tell you, Davi and I got very lucky this morning to see Corky's little one. The two boys were really looking after it. So I think from today onwards, we're going to start to see it more and more often. Ribbon has been at the den all day. She hasn't moved much, I don't think. Isn't this precious? Okay, I'm just going to reposition the car, I think. Oh, sorry, Ribbon. I'm just going to roll. Let's see if the car will roll. I think that's a no. Your live safari continues. Listen to them. The cubs, Ribbon's boys, are making a noise called squattering. And it's a vocalization that only hyenas make, and it's only the young hyenas squattering. It's an adorable noise, and they're doing that as they drink mum's milk. I'm so happy to introduce you all to them. I waited yesterday and sadly nothing happened, but patience pays off here. So anything you want to know about hyenas, send in your questions. We want to hear them. I think hyenas are my favourite animal out here and I probably know the most about. Ribbon didn't used to be the matriarch, she's a new matriarch. And her position allowed her to get bigger and stronger, more powerful, and she's now produced a new litter, which is so exciting. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to sit tight for the rest of the afternoon and watch this adorable scene in front of me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your very own live safari, coming from andBeyond Ngala. My name is Bunny. I have Owen behind me as our cameraman for the day. As we drive around and look for cool things to show you this afternoon, just came across this big journey of giraffes. And this journey of giraffes, it looks like majority of them are young males, few busy feeding on the very same tree, but I can also see some females around here. So this is quite uncommon in this area to see so many giraffes together. I think so far I've counted at least 5. And 3 of the 5, it's at least females, and it's 2 boys that we've got their backs facing away from us and feeding on that leadwood tree. They're both males. Looking at how good they're looking, not having any scars, they're still young males on their prime that haven't really contested much in fighting for mating rights, hence they haven't been hurt as yet. Look at this guy that's still the only one standing on the tree at the moment. Slightly looking away, it looks like something might have caught his attention. So we're going to stick around with this giraffe. If you've got any questions relating to this giraffe, send your questions to wildearth.tv. While we do that and some other giraffes coming into the picture as well, we're going to link you over to a squirrel.
Now we've just come into this forested area to the north of our waterhole, and it is here that the squirrel was making a very loud alarm call, going but it's calmed down now. So whatever threat there was has now disappeared. See how beautifully camouflaged it is there. And I don't know if you can see, but that is a male squirrel. Those two white things behind it are its testicles. Squirrels have got absolutely massive testicles. Beck, an alarm call is the noise that an animal makes when it sees a predator. So squirrels make lots of different kinds of sounds. Some of them are alarm calls, which indicate to other squirrels that there's a predator around, and some of them are just contact calls, where they'll be talking to each other. Impala do the same kind of thing. They've got a number of different calls: alarm calls, contact calls, grunts between mothers and lambs. But an alarm call is the noise that a bird or a mammal makes when it sees a predator. And often those sounds are understood by animals from other species.
Hey. This has got to be one of the most beautiful nests and well-made nests that you'll ever find on Tswalu and in many areas. This one is old. I've actually taken it off now, and I'll show you why I've taken it off and exactly why. I'm going to keep this at the research center as a demo for some of the researchers that come in there, the people that are interested in birds. But have a look at this. I'm just going to get a little bit closer here, and then I can tell you what it is and why it's so spectacular. So this is the nest of what we call a Cape penduline tit. Okay, it's been completely predated on. It's got a big rip in the top of the nest over there. There's another smaller hole on the side of it as well. So some kind of predator was actually trying to get in here. It could have been a bird of prey. It could have been something like a genet perhaps. But this nest feels exactly like fleece, and the best quality fleece. It is incredibly warm. And what I love about this, and ignore the hole that was on top, okay, that's not part of the normal thing. So if you lift that, there's like a false entrance. So it goes in a little bit and then stops. Okay. So when these birds come back, in fact, they're the smallest birds that we get in our region. They're tiny, tiny little things. To actually access the nest, this little flap over here is actually the nest entrance. So they'll actually zip that open, whoop, go down inside the nest through there, and then they'll just close it up from the inside again. So, and the theory there is that any predator that comes along, like snakes is the big predator on these, they'll come along, forage around there, up, no entrance, and then go off again. Now, you know, that is an incredibly effective strategy for avoiding predation on eggs and chicks and these things. But what an incredible design. Hey? We get these birds to make our tops for us next time.
So we've got, there's a few more giraffes that have showed faces who were here. There is at least up to about 8 individuals. This is possibly, looking at how many there are, this is not common to see so many giraffes together. Striped horse, I've never seen any twin giraffes before. And if you asked me this question about a year ago, I would have said no. But I've learned over the years that in the wild, you never say never. Because I said the same thing a few years ago about elephants never giving twins. And in the last year, I've seen 2 different elephant twins. So I think it is a possibility, but it's not a common thing. And as far as things that I've witnessed myself, I've never seen anything like that. So in this particular journey, you can see they feed and they're moving on as they go along. So chain giraffes have got what we call a loose family structure, where often you find them sometimes in singles and twos, and sometimes they conglomerate into small groups and then they break away as they please. So a journey of giraffes or a group of giraffes like this is something completely different to the pride of lions that might be related, or elephants that needs to stick together as a family bond. So giraffe, they can join up and loosen up as they please. Sometimes, depending on the area that they are on, with the food that they feed on, they sometimes have seen at least up to about 15 giraffes together. So this is quite a reasonable size group, but I've seen bigger. So they are slowly moving as they feeding as they go. Look like they might be slowly but surely heading towards the waterhole, which is still quite a distance away from here. So they've got some distance to cover still.
We have got the most beautiful sighting here. You see all those oxpeckers taking off that buffalo's back. Those are all yellow-billed oxpeckers. I've never seen so many in one group before. It's so special. They're the much rarer form of the oxpecker in this part of the world, and they love this buffalo herd. I've seen them on this buffalo herd a few times now, but I've never seen that many of them. Look at them. Scott, I'd say the total bird list for Djuma must be approaching somewhere around 300, and that would be with all the vagrants, so birds that have come in once only and never come back again. I'd say you've probably got a total bird list of around about 220 that you could see regularly over the course of a year, including that magnificent thing there, the yellow-billed oxpecker. That's absolutely magnificent. This is one of the most spectacular oxpecker sightings I've ever had. I'm going to sit here and appreciate it a bit longer. So cool. How cool is this, everyone? It's just so beautiful. And the colors. Just magnificent. It's just my monitor, but I mean, I think the colors are absolutely magnificent there of the yellow-billed oxpecker. If you listen carefully, they make a slightly different call from the red-billed. It's not quite as buzzing. There's a bit more kind of rattle to it. Not sure if that makes any sense. I'm assuming we're still live, are we? Maybe not. Confirm we are not live. We are live. Okay. We're with the internet audience. Sorry everybody, I didn't realise that. I didn't really know if you were still with me or you weren't with me. I thought you were, but then I got confused. Anyway, we're going to come out of our ad break in about 40 seconds or so. Those magnificent birds. Wow. I'm now going to be quiet. So the buffalo with the yellow-billed oxpeckers is now heading off into the bushes, and I'll just quickly show you the red-billed variety. BK, just behind there, that buffalo sitting out in the open has got a couple of red-billed oxpeckers on it. That's the one. No, the one standing, sorry, not sitting. Yeah, that's it. And if you look there, you'll see that there's a red-billed, 2 red-billed oxpeckers there, 3 red-billed oxpeckers. And they don't have any yellow on their bills at all. The mayor is wondering why it is that so many oxpeckers are on one buffalo. I don't know, other than to say that, you know, maybe he's just got a collection of too many or a lot of ticks on his back. It's also quite possible that they're socializing. So they've found a spot to socialize, and in fact, if you look there, they're all kind of moved over into the sun onto this one. And so, although the buffalo provide them with a source of food, ticks, and sometimes blood if there's a wound, they'll also use the buffalo as social places where they meet and have their social interactions. They are communal birds, they're social birds. So what's going on there is not feeding. What's going on there is purely socializing. So I think that's what's going on in this particular area. You'll notice that whatever buffalo happens to be where that one's standing, the rest of them come and stand.
It's a beautiful example of 2 very, very well adapted species for these semi-arid areas. The red hartebeest is the ones that we were on initially there, and we're coming over to a herd of gemsbuck now as well. And what is really interesting about this is to see how these species are grouping together, and that's almost certainly in response to, or as a preventative mechanism against possible predation from lions or wild dogs. You know, it's not that there's any physical benefits in terms of feeding there, but there's more eyes, more ears looking out for danger. And you find in areas where there's very, very low predator densities, those groups tend to split up more, and you start getting more and more individuals, or very, very small groups. But those gemsbuck are iconic desert species. And we're not in a desert here. This is semi-arid savanna, but they are incredibly well adapted to desert areas, and we can chat about that at some point as well.
Oh, look at what we come across. A singing elephant bull in the riverbed. Clever animal, busy digging down for water in the sand there. So it looks, you'll see, watch his trunk going up to his mouth. It looks like he has been successful. He managed to get some water there to drink. Elephants are quite fussy drinkers, and they tend to try and get water that is as clean as possible. You often see them even when they get into water holes, they try and go into a different corner where the other animals haven't mixed the water up. And as in a case like this, they can smell the water underground and they start digging. And this is, it looks like he's had enough, how he just throw that water out. So this is some of the cleanest water they can get, because that water is filtered through the sand and it becomes as clean as possible. So the first little chunk is not as clean, and you often suck that out and spit it out. And then he gets the clean parts of the water, and that's what he gets to drink. He can stand there and drink for as long as he can. He can suck at least up to anything between 8 and 11 liters of water in that trunk in one go. Ooh. If you look straight past the elephant, we are right on the bank of the Timbawati River. If you look over this elephant onto the background there's a giraffe far off in the distance that's also feeding on some of these green lushes from the trees of the river itself. Coming back to this bull right here, you can see he's not in a hurry, he is by himself. They separate themselves away from the females, because females and babies cover some serious long distances, and bulls sometimes just like to take their time on whatever they do. So we just come across a corner and he's been drinking, but it looks like he can stand on that very same spot and carry on drinking. So we're gonna sit, just watch him drink a little bit more, and then we will move along to see what else we can find in the meantime. Looks like he's starting to play a little bit with this water. Looks like he might have had enough already.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. We've been searching through these open grasslands and we've managed to find a beautiful female cheetah. And is that not just the most breathtaking view? It certainly looks like something that you'd have to travel to East Africa to see. So how fantastic to have this kind of view right on our doorstep here in South Africa in KwaZulu-Natal. Might see a vehicle driving in the background. It's some of the conservation team doing a bit of work in the area. But what this female cheetah has got that we can't see just now, if you joined us yesterday, you would have seen a female cheetah with 2 relatively young cubs. This mother has also got 2 cubs. They're even smaller than the ones we saw yesterday. But at the moment, they are hiding from this very strong wind. And they're somewhere in the grass to her left. Oh, here they come, here they come, here they come. They're going towards her, creeping across. Look at how small they are. See, keeping low to the ground. How cute is that? Shane, you're asking if there are any king cheetah on this reserve. Shane, there are not, no. The only place, Shane, that I'm sure that there are maybe some smaller private reserves around South Africa that might have them. The only place that I've heard of king cheetah in the wild was in the west of Kruger, in an area not too far from where Ngala and Djuma are. But no, there are no king cheetah here. Look at this mother cheetah now scanning over that grassland. That's just so special. Oh, here comes the other cub. Here comes the other cub. Look, coming to join mum. Absolutely adorable. And lying down in the grass with its sibling. Now, we haven't spent very much time with these cubs. We don't even know if they're male or female, to be honest. So we're definitely going to spend a bit more time here. And hopefully we'll be rewarded with some fantastic entertainment from them.
Well, I suppose I haven't said hello to all of you yet, but welcome to Pridelands, the land of the elephants. So we are part of Tswalu Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park, and this is something that I can definitely guarantee to show you almost every single day is, if not 1 elephant or 2 elephants, but hopefully a whole breeding herd. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Gat, and like I said, we are bringing you this live safari from a wilderness area called Pridelands, just outside Hoedspruit. But we've got a couple of elephant bulls that are not afraid to stand too far away from the car. And I think that they might be on their way towards the eco-training camp, where there's a nice big dam where they could drink or have a swim. But for now, they're just going to browse on a bush willow. Some are eating grass. Or you're just going to go straight through the trees this afternoon. But doing, of course, what elephants do best, and that is eating. And they do need to consume large amounts of food every single day. And it's starting to get harder and harder for them now as we're in the dry season. But I did speak about feeding habits a couple of days ago if you joined us for the first time maybe today. Look at him. That can't be too comfortable, hey, to have a bush in your face like that. But luckily elephants have got very long eyelashes. And he's probably closing his eyes as he feeds, and just using his... Nope, nothing, none of it, which is why I carried on talking. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. No, I didn't get your countdown, obviously, Rebecca. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. I wonder what happened there, because Gert was getting comms, but I wasn't. I wondered why you were quiet. Oh, now the call's just dropped. That's probably why. Has it dropped for you?
I'm still on the call.
Bizarre.
Let me just...
Sorry, everyone. Can you hear what's happening? No, I'm hearing myself.
She's going backwards.
Apologies about that crash cut, but we are sitting with Ribbon and Cubbies. And you can see that they've slightly repositioned so we can get a beautiful view of them. I'm just going to sit and admire them for a little bit longer. Now that milk must be delicious. And in fact, it's one of the richest milk in the entire animal kingdom. We're still sitting here with Ribbon, the matriarch of the Djuma clan, and her two tiny little boys who I think may have fallen asleep. So just a reminder to you all who are on board with us on your live safari, please do send in your questions. Very much looking forward to answering them. You can just see this tiny little paw there and how small these boys really are. They're very young. They've got a lot of growing up to do. Hyenas actually suckle up to 18 months, which is a very long time for a mammal. Sometimes it can extend up to 2 years. But because they crunch through bones and they eat almost anything, their milk is so rich. Calcium, protein, minerals, fatty acids, and that's why they're able to stay in milk for so long. Isn't this just adorable? I am sure at any moment they're going to get a injection of energy and they'll be bundling about.
I've got quite an interesting arrangement of zebras here. There are 3 stallions, so 3 male zebras, and that's not a normal arrangement. Well, it's not abnormal, but it's unusual. So these are probably 3 guys who have yet to get married. It's like 3 bachelors hanging out together, and they'll be hoping to take away, or kidnap actually is how they do it, a filly or female from her father. So what will happen is that round about this age, I mean they look like they're mature now, they'll go and find a herd of zebra and they will challenge the father or the lead stallion of the herd, and if he manages to beat up that herd stallion, then he will abduct that stallion's daughters. He will take them away and they will become his wives. It probably happens one at a time. And so the normal kinship group in a zebra population like this would be sort of 3 or 4 zebras, and it would be 1 stallion, 3 mares, and maybe their foals. That would be a kind of mature situation. And these chaps are on their own until they're big enough, strong enough to challenge a herd stallion for his daughters. It's quite cool. And then there's some impala just beyond there, and you'll probably find that the zebras are hanging out with the impala because the impala are pretty good at spotting predators. Hello Pranav, you're 13 years old. I'm just going to drive down the road towards them as I answer this question. Yes, they're absolutely related to horses. Horses come from Central Asia. That's where they originally come from. And you'll find that throughout most of Africa and Eurasia, there were various kinds of what we call equids, so horses and donkeys. And in Africa we had 3 species of zebra. These ones, the mountain zebra and the Grevy zebra, and then something called a wild ass, which occurs in the Horn of Africa. I think those were the only 4. And then you'll find various other different kinds of equids or horse-like animals in various parts of the world. And they're easily recognizable. You can tell that they're related, exactly how you've just told that these zebra are related to horses. We'll stick with them for a little bit longer and then see what's happening further down the road.
Our female cheetah has moved just a little bit, everybody. She's gone into a little glade of long grey grass, and her little ones are huddling once again, trying to keep out of the wind, just in the shadows off to her right. And she is scanning the horizon. Now, when she walked, we were able to see, I don't know if you saw now just as she got up, but her belly was not quite empty, but it does look like she could do with a meal. And so now, I'm pretty sure with this wind blowing, the different prey species that you might be looking for, smaller antelope like impalas, inyalas, grey duiker, they'll all be moving into thicker bush trying to get out of the wind. And that's where she looks like she's heading. Oh, she's left her cubs behind. A shame it's so windy the cubs haven't realized that Mum's gone. But look at how she melts into that long grass. You can just see her profile, her ears above that grey grass, heading towards that big marula tree. Hanro, you are asking if this, or how old this female cheetah is, and if this is her first litter. Hanro, no, it is not her first litter. She is about 5 years old, Hanro. So she has had at least one other litter of cubs that we know about before these 2. And that litter of the couple that were born, if I'm not mistaken, Hanro, I think there were 3 that were born, but only 1 managed to make it to adulthood. So we're hoping that there's going to be a better survival rate. We're hoping that both of these cubs make it to adulthood. Felix, you're asking if we think that we might be able to watch this cheetah hunt. There is a pretty good chance, Felix. We said that she's looking for food, so if she is able to find some impala, there's a good chance that she might try and stalk those impala. Now, I know that the show on SABC is coming to an end, and it may be once the show has ended that she does start to hunt. And this show is going to continue on the internet once it ends on SABC, so please do join us on the internet to see if she does try to hunt. She's realized that she's lost her little one. She's coming back looking for them. Look how she's looking around. She's calling. Tsepo, you're asking about a minimum speed for a cheetah. Tsepo, I think in a hunt, it depends what she's chasing after. If she was able to find a newborn antelope like a newborn impala or a newborn duiker, then she wouldn't have to run very fast at all. She'd probably be able to walk up to it if it was still struggling to get to its feet. But Tsepo, normally in a full-blown chase, because a prey animal like an impala will run in zigzags, this female cheetah won't be able to get up to her top speed, which has been recorded at over 100 kilometers an hour. So her speed normally in a chase will normally be about 70 or 80 kilometers an hour, as she kind of zigzags trying to keep up with her agile prey. I hope that answers your question, Tsepo. The little cub's coming to join Mum. Shame, I don't even think they realized that Mom was gone. She suddenly had one of those moments where she realized, oh yeah, my children are gone. Had to turn around and go and find them again. I don't know if you were able to hear that high-pitched little chirp that she made, just to get their attention, and then they all came running out. I'm really excited, everyone. She's on the move, and she's heading down towards some thicker bush. We're going to keep up with her and see if she manages to find something to try and hunt.
Luckily, I don't have to keep up with my animals. They're very much stationary and comfortable. Now, with hyenas, everybody has a social rank. So these two boys cannot be at the same rank. One will always be more dominant than the other in any twin litter. And I have a funny feeling the one on the left, which is slightly lighter and slightly bigger, is the more dominant one. I think the one on the right could be slightly lower ranked. Rochelle, as a matriarch of a hyena clan, wow, there's lots of responsibilities. There's many matriarchs throughout the animal kingdom, including elephants, but within hyenas specifically, they keep order in the clan. Can you imagine if there was no order in a hyena clan? Chaos. It would be absolutely chaos. So Ribbon's role is to take the lead. She's the one that will coordinate everybody. Everyone will respond to her. She'll summon everyone in hunt. Hyenas do hunt. They don't just scavenge. They have a terrible reputation for scavenging only, but they do hunt, and she will coordinate that. So thank you everyone for jumping on board. Please do join us same time, same place tomorrow. So welcome on board everyone else. The SABC show is wrapped and we're back online with you all, sitting with Ribbon and our two naughty duo, who I think has just woke up and chewing on some grass. Look at that. Yummy. I knew they were going to wake up at some point. And of course, hello, this other one's starting to wake up too. Good afternoon, say hi to everyone. Oh, one cannot stay put if the other one is up and about. So of course we want to hear from you all as well. It's important that you do talk to us. You do send in your comments and questions, #WildEarth or @FC or kids. Send in your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. My name is Lauren, for those of you who are possibly unsure of that, and I do have Davy on camera. That's his thumb. They're sleepy. They want to play. They want to be energetic, but they're also half asleep. Our tummies are full, I'm sure. Probably could be fuller, known hyenas, but they're full. And I don't even think Ribbon realizes from her body posture that the cubs are no longer suckling. She is fast asleep. Would you look at that? I don't think she realizes they're not there anymore. Gemma, you're asking how much milk will the cubbies drink each day? I have no idea. I have a cub coming to the car. What are you two doing? They're having a sniff of the tire, so I'm just going to let them have a sniff. Very brave these days. We're so brave. I'm going to come back to your question. Now they're going under the car, which is great news. I have no idea how much milk they drink, I'm afraid. I really don't know. Depends on the age, it depends on mum, it depends on how often they suckle. Sometimes, if hyenas go off to hunt, then they may not be fed for a few days as they get older, getting used to the feast and famine lifestyle that comes with hyenas. And I'm just going to move a little to check where these two are. Very, very naughty already. Okay, now that they're awake, I am not going to go anywhere. I'm going to sit and watch my terrible duo.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. We're still following our mother cheetah and her two little cubs, and we're hoping that they're going to go off in search of a meal in the fading light. Once again, my name is Damon. Of course, behind the camera, Marcel, and we're super excited for this afternoon. We've been spending a lot of time with Cheetah over the last few days, but I think so far, every single drive we've been rewarded with being able to watch it chase. And with this mother cheetah doing what she's doing now, see how she's walking through the long grass, she's looking around. Her belly doesn't look super empty, but it does look like she could eat. So I think it'll be worth our while to stick with her. And also just the scenery, everybody. It's just absolutely fantastic. I hope you're all getting some beautiful screenshots of this mother cheetah with the rolling hills beyond her. The wind is absolutely howling. Shame, and these poor little cubs are looking a little bit uneasy from the wind, making sure they can always see where mom goes. Of course, she is their world at this age, and they want to stick as close as possible to her. See how they go and lie right up against her for a bit of comfort. Kaineet, you're asking how many cubs a cheetah can have. Kaineet, the most that I've ever heard of was apparently 7 cubs in one litter. Now, can you imagine having 7 little cubs to look after? But Kaineet, normally it's much less, well, a little bit less than that. Normally it's about 3 or 4 in one litter. And the reason why cheetah have so many cubs is because, unfortunately, Kaineet, lots of them die as they grow up. They're very vulnerable to attack by other predators. And so that's why a mother cheetah has to have so many cubs, is so to try and make sure that at least one survives to adulthood. Of course, the advantage of this mother having only 2 little ones is that there's fewer mouths for her to feed, so she will be able to kill less, in theory. Imagine having 7 cubs. Imagine when they get to the size where they're almost the same size as she is. She'll have to kill basically probably an impala a day to keep them all fed. Okay, we're going to try for a little bit of a different view for this mother cheetah. Once again, I'm super excited to spend a bit of time with her and see what she gets up to this evening and where she ends up.
Very lucky indeed, very fortunate, making me slightly green about the gills with jealousy. But, no, I think you get green about the gills if you've got seasickness. Just green with envy. I'm not green about the gills. My stomach is perfectly fine. Now we're looking at a red-billed hornbill, which is scuffling about in the elephant dung, hoping for the odd brave termite who is still active in the winter. There he found one, you can see. Delicious peanut butter flavoured termites. It's going to be quiet. There's some nice bird song at the moment, robins mainly. Kalia, it's because birds eat different things, and so their beaks are all various different shapes and sizes. I'll show you a diagram if you like, such as my magnanimity on a day like today. If you have a look over here, there we are, me old bird book. These are a basic arrangement of the different kinds of beaks that you have. You've got a probing beak like that of the hoopoe, a fish-eating beak or fish-catching beak like that of the kingfisher, an omnivorous beak like that one, so that's good for fruits and for insects and probably scavenging as well, and then the parrot's typical fruit eater or frugivorous beak, the conical seed eater's beak, and then the flesh-eating raptor's beak. And so they're all different shapes and sizes because they all eat different things. If they were all the same size and shape, they'd all have to eat the same sort of thing. And in fact, there are another 2 down here, BK. Yeah, there's a probing beak, flower probing beak, like that on the hummingbird or the sunbirds. and then an insect-eating beak, like that one. Jacqueline, we see red-billed hornbills, yellow-billed hornbills, grey hornbills, and if we are very lucky, as we were yesterday evening, we see ground hornbills as well. I suppose it is possible to see a crowned hornbill here, but that would be very unlikely. And we do, I would say, twice a year have trumpeter hornbills come through here. Let me carry on down to the riverbed and see what there is down there.
We saw a trumpeter hornbill the other day, but it was just flying overhead. But now we've got an elephant that was being so kind in feeding on a tree right next to the vehicle, but has since moved off into the distance. But they're slowly making their way towards Ndlovu Dam, right outside the eco training camp. So I'm hoping that in maybe the next 20 minutes or so, they'll pick up the pace and move on around so we can see them swim. We know the bulls can't resist taking a dip more than just getting their trunks wet. But there's one more elephant to the left. As I think it was Beyonce. Did she say that? Yeah. But it's having a scratch on the tree. Please don't also disappear. There it is. So just the bachelor herd that we've been seeing, and they're all feeding on boerbeens today. So the weeping boerbean, which are plenty of them around here, especially in this drainage line that we're sort of situated in. I know what's delicious about their leaves. Also, I think the light is very pretty, the way that the elephant is backlit. You can also see lots of insects all flying around. It's actually really nice when we get an opportunity to have backlit subjects, because I don't think everybody realizes how many bugs and things are really flying around. It must be so annoying for animals. I mean, we see them swatting their tails all the time, and elephants flapping their ears and using their trunks to wipe their eyes and swat other things. But it must be on a whole nother level of annoying. Just listening to some go-away birds also whining in the distance, but actually, since I've been here at Pridelands, whenever the go-away birds whine, they're not really whining about anything. Look at all the dust that just came off him as that branch caught his back. He didn't even flinch at that. He's going to join the other male in a moment. Now, this is quite an interesting question, and I probably, you know what I should do is I could do a little, like a mini study, and I can't believe I haven't yet. So, Ian Timothy, I'm going to start doing this from today, is note what trees the elephants prefer to feed on. But I think it also depends on what season it is. Obviously now, you know, the pickings are quite slim and they'll just take whatever they can get. So they have been feeding on a lot of boerbeens. They're feeding on plenty sicklebush. I think I've seen the elephants eating more sicklebush here than I did in the Sabi sand. Not that we can see them feeding right now. They have been eating, what else have we been seeing them eating? A lot of raisins, the Grevia species of trees, and then I'm just trying to think what else. All the various bush swallows, the red and russet bush swallow in particular. So there's quite a few different tree species. However, if they can, they love to eat the leaves off of marula trees. It's probably one of their preferred sort of trees to feed on. You can hear the go-away birds whining. Maybe they've seen one of the little white-faced owls in the tree, and that's what they're complaining about. But now I've got to rack my brain about what an elephant's favorite tree to feed on is in the summer months.
We have got a lovely white-backed vulture here. Yes, I know very few people would refer to a white-backed vulture as lovely, but I'm one that would. And I don't think it's doing anything other than having a rest here. I don't think there's anything dead around. I can't hear the sounds of feeding. I don't see any other birds of scavenging prey coming in. So just those lovely calls of the birds down in the riverbed there. And the little Cape turtle dove starting to join the chorus. Very nice. Right, I think we'll probably press on from here, down through the dip. There were some leopard tracks in this area yesterday, and, well, that was yesterday, I suppose, wasn't it? They might be around still. We might be lucky, that's why we're in the area. So let's go back to the other scavenging place at the or the other place where we just live.
Look at this little cub. I don't know what they're just entertaining themselves in no end, getting themselves in all sorts of situations and positions. They're very flexible at this age, as are most youngsters, including humans. And they've just been roly-polying around as if they don't have a single bone in their body. Now, we actually managed to see them, as I mentioned earlier, with Corky's little one this morning, and it was so fascinating. Stop eating your own arm. I really don't think that's a good idea. Oh, careful. And yes, it was utterly amazing to see how tender they were. Tiffany, you're asking, how did Ribbon win the matriarchy? She didn't win it. She challenged it. She climbed up the proverbial ladder that hyenas have, their hierarchy. She was low ranked, and she seized an opportunity. Corky, the previous matriarch, got injured. And I think Corky just was not able to maintain her duties. She wasn't spending time with the clan because she was hiding, trying to heal. She was weak. And I think Ribbon saw this as an opportunity. Aha! I am tired of being bullied. I am tired of not getting enough food. I am tired of everybody else being mean to me, not getting very many mating opportunities. I'm going to take this opportunity. And she gathered an army. And what was unusual about Ribbon's army compared to the sort of norm in science is that she gathered an army of boys. Now, out of all the females, Corky, Ribbon, and Tima, Heart, and June, I would say that Ribbon was probably in the best position because she had a daughter. She had quite a strong daughter who was almost an adult. And that means she already had an alliance. She already had a female who was going to back her up. And she gathered some males of the clan, and challenged the status quo. And now she's a matriarch. It's an incredible story. But I don't think Ribbon actually hurt Corky. There's a possibility Ribbon might be behind June's now floppy ear. Wasn't floppy before, but it's definitely floppy now, and that's not going to change, and I think Ribbon might have been behind that. Neva, you're asking a really good question, but matriarchal takeovers within hyena societies are actually relatively new to science. Now, I don't know whether this is because it's never been witnessed before and it's not very common, or is it because hyenas are not very well studied. Not a lot of people are interested in hyenas, I'm afraid. They have terrible reputations, and I think not many people have invested time in getting to know these animals, or it could be a bit of both. But either way, it's only recently. There's a great paper that I can share with you all by a lady called Kay Holcamp, who's one of the main figures in hyena research. She runs all the camps up in the Masai Mara, and she produced a paper on exactly how females can conduct a matriarchal takeover. How do they do it? So if you are interested, let me know. I can share that with you. But look at those tiny little teeth. I'm sure they could deliver a painful bite though. And it only came out last year, 2019. So it's not really been recorded before. I think Waffles in the Masai Mara was probably the key in changing everybody's minds about do hyenas overthrow their matriarchs. This is Ribbon's only the second example that I've ever heard of. And Ribbon's done so well. She really has. She was a miserable hyena for quite some time. Really miserable. Okay, I'm going to sit here a little bit longer, hoping that that third little cub is going to make an appearance.
Our mother cheetah has found a little bit of a termite mound, a little bit of a raised patch of earth to lie on, just to give herself a bit of an extra vantage as she scans her surrounds for any signs of food. Her little one's lying just down the ridge behind her, just out of sight for now, but I'm hoping that they're going to come up and snuggle up next to her now. This wind is getting worse and worse by the minute. We've also shifted around to give you a bit of a view of the start of the Ubombo Mountains behind her. Every now and then she kind of looks back in our direction as she scans. And just now, when she looked back, we had a close look through the binoculars, and we noticed that she's got the most gorgeous eyes. And I really hope that she does look back towards us. And of course, I mean, a lot of cheetah are known for the beautiful colours in their eyes, beautiful honey or amber colour. But her eyes have almost got this like orangey tint to them. Barney, you're asking why we haven't given this cheetah a name. And Barney, that's just the way or the approach that we've taken with the animals on our reserve. We don't give our animals, we've just decided not to give our animals names. We'll refer to them by titles according to the areas that they live in. So like for example with the lion prides, we have called the lion prides after the areas that they tend to spend time in. So for example, the lion pride that lives around Mountain Lodge, we've called them the mountain pride. And the lion pride that lives in the region in the far west of our reserve called Bayala, they are known as the Bayala pride. It's just a oh, listen to the wind. Sorry, Bonnie, I hope that you can still hear me talking. It's just the approach that we've decided to take. I suppose it often gives, it may give guests the feeling that the area is, or that they're in like kind of a zoo. That was just our approach on things. But the animals will have, so there are a lot of researchers that move through that are in the area doing research, and the researchers will have given each cheetah kind of a code that they can then individually identify her by. And she'll have certain characteristics that we'll know her by. So for example, with this female cheetah, I just said her eyes are that very distinctive orangey color instead of the normal honey or amber color. She also has quite a dark muzzle. Her nose is very dark and it almost like spreads down onto the white of her mouth. Very attractive. Well, I don't know if I've ever met an unattractive cheetah. Oh, there we go, looking back at us. Now we can maybe get a look at those eyes. Oh, please look in our direction. And of course those eyes are a crucial part of a cheetah's anatomy, both for spotting prey and for spotting potential danger in the distance. And I don't know if any of you have ever had a chance to have a look at a cheetah's skull. You might be able to see another Another vehicle in the background. There's another game drive driving past. As I was saying, another cheetah. If you have a look at a cheetah's skull, first of all, look at how small it is. But if you were to take the flesh off and the skin off and the fur off, they've got massive, massive eye sockets, much bigger in relation to their body size than something like a lion or a leopard. Just an adaptation to living in these more open areas and spotting things at a distance. Beautiful. Now I'm wondering if, with all of this wind, if maybe initially we had thought that she was going to go and look for food. She was looking around very intently. But I'm wondering if with all this wind, she's maybe just not trying to find a safer spot to rest for the night. Lucy, you're asking if male cheetah are a threat to these cubs. Lucy, generally speaking, well, certainly not as much of a threat as, for example, in lions, where if a new pair of male lions or a new coalition of males were to come and take over a pride, they would, or were to encounter a pride that had cubs that weren't their own, they would invariably try to kill the cubs. With male cheetah, it's not so much. I mean, there have been cases where they will kill cheetah cubs that aren't theirs, but in most of the time they'll go and harass the female and maybe chase the cubs around a little bit. And normally mom will try and stand up to them and chase them away. So they are a threat, but not so much as another large predator like a lion or a leopard. And they're certainly not as well known for killing other cubs as lions are. Fiona now grooming herself. I'm still hopeful that she's going to move around a little bit. We're still trying to figure out if she's looking for food or if she's just looking for a nice spot to rest for the night. Oh, Chevy, you've asked me a very difficult question. You've asked what my favorite animal is. And Chevy, I'm embarrassed to say that I don't have a favorite animal. I love all animals. I know that's a very cliche answer to give. I've got a couple animals though that are my favorite to spend time with, Chevy, and generally speaking I love spending time with big male lions. Especially if they're roaring or if they're on a territorial patrol, just the attitude that they exude as they walk and as they scent mark. And a lion's roar is my absolute favorite sound in the whole wide world. I also love to spend time with very old elephant bulls, Chevy, especially ones with big tusks. For me, they're just the most incredible creature to spend time with. They're always doing something, and they're just also so confident in the way that they walk around, just safe in the knowledge that there's nothing out here that can touch them. And Chevy, I also love to spend time with honey badgers, just because of how active they are. And they're always busy, and you never know what might happen if you're watching a honey badger. They could go and dig for something, try and catch it. And they're just a ball of energy. But Chevy, to be honest with you, after these couple of weeks, we've been spending lots and lots of time with Cheetah. And I'll spend a whole day, any day, with a cheetah, especially if in a setting like this, and if we get to see things like we did this morning, where we got to watch that female stalk. Yeah, so tough to choose a favorite. They're all very special. Shame, look at Mom's got her back hunched over now. And she's looking off into the distance. Chance, you're asking how much longer she'll last if she doesn't get something to eat. Chance, let's have a look at her belly now, actually, now that she's sitting up so beautifully for us. So look at where her belly kind of flows from her front legs into her kind of hips, into that area. Now, see, there's a bit of a bulge. It hangs quite far down, so she still has got food in her belly. As far as we know, the last time she ate was about 2 days ago or so, when she killed an impala. And so she should be good easily for another day, Chance, and maybe even, or definitely beyond that. I think for another day she'll be comfortable, but if it goes to 2 days, it's when things will start to become desperate.
We have come on to Chitwa, which is the reserve to the south and east of Djuma, and we are observing 2 wildebeest, both of whom seem completely unfazed by a Thursday afternoon here in the wilderness. They are enjoying the feel of the sun on their skin, I'm sure. They are remarkable looking creatures, these. I don't know what it is, they do genuinely look fairly gormless. Not that I think that they are necessarily gormless, they're as intelligent as they have to be. But one does hear stories of them running into trees and knocking themselves out. If one has ever observed them in the migration, they don't cover themselves in the glory of intellectualism, I wouldn't say. Sorry, my friend. You are very attractive, though, in an interesting sort of a way. I think he's got a leaf stuck on his bottom lip, poor fellow. Now we've come on to Chitwa because there was a sighting of 2 leopards this morning, and we are now going to see if we can aid those that are around here in finding those 2 leopards. Seems to have been Sibui's cubs, and possibly Sibui as well. And so while we do that, let's go back up to the Kalahari. I got the communication that Dylan is looking at some patum. I don't know what patum is.
So while that bird's nest is fresh in our mind, remember that beautiful, that Cape pendulum tit nest, that stunningly made one that feels like a fleece. So this creeper that we've got growing over here, this is one of the very, very important plants that they use for actually I'm going to come a little bit closer. Jean will tell me when it's good to stop there. So these seeds, they break out of these seed cases, and each one is winged. You can see those little brown seeds on the top there. So these very fine filaments are what these seeds actually use to disperse with. Look at that. How cool is that? What a design, eh? Hey, those ones are going miles away. So it just shows all these strategies. Now in an environment like this where wind is not at a premium, there is wind out here almost every single day, sometimes gentle. Veronica's asked, Veronica's asked, do snakes like this bush? I'm sure there's snakes inside this bush. I mean, look at it. This is a snake palace. If I was a snake, I'd probably live inside here. Well, maybe not. I can think of better places to live, but I'm not no offense meant to this particular bush, I'm just saying, you know. So I'm going to dig myself a hole here. But there's, yeah, these bush clumps, actually a nice point that you raised, because these bush clumps are actually so important for protecting a whole range of species. And none more is charismatic than these little guys. It's actually amazing. There's actually quite a few of them still on this bush. Whereas you'll know that those areas that we've been with the meerkats in the mornings, they have been absolutely flattened there. The cold has really, really taken its toll. So I'm actually surprised that you still get some here. But you also, what you do find, and this is very, very interesting, is you get these little build-ups of heat. It's like little heat islands. And, you know, these clumps of bush will be very, very well protected or offer good protection from extremely cold temperatures. So that's probably why there's a number of, just from where I'm standing, I can see a number of them cruising around inside there. So that's really, really cool. He said one of his antennae been chopped off, been bitten off, I think. Let's go put him down. So it just shows how diverse these thickets can be. And we actually only touched on it.
The things that I hear through my ear, Dylan is just going to put the cricket back into the snake bush. I can only imagine. Now, I know it looks like we're looking at absolutely nothing, but I promise you there were 2 elephants here just a second ago. One has crossed the little drainage line, and now I'm waiting for the other one on the left-hand side to walk into this beautiful scene. But do you think that it wants to cooperate this afternoon? No. There is the elephant. That is not a rock. I don't know if we're even going to make it to not Leopard Dam and Ndlovu Dam at this rate before the sun sets. They really, really are taking their time. Perhaps we'll have to move on, I think. I wonder if I start the car, will he move? Probably not. Okay, we'll find other animals. I'm also looking around here in the tops of these trees because this is where we saw the pair of southern white-faced owls. And I suspect that they're probably roosting around here. There's some nice shady places, and there aren't too many trees with leaves on them. The tambourchis and the boerbeens, and I suppose the leadwoods, kind of have... there's a view. Hiya! There's a view of the elephant. I don't know why I made that karate noise. Apologies. But there's the elephant that we've been waiting for. If he does walk through the little drainage, we're going to reverse because we've now got a rather large tree that'll be in the way. But he's just taking his time. What is he actually feeding on? I can't really make out what tree that is. I don't know what he's feeding on. Is it a boerbean again? Oh, there's lots of boerbeens that have been pushed over that are slightly smaller than they normally are. We actually get so many different species of boerbeens. And then the other day, I was reading about a boerbean called the bush boerbean, which I've never come across before. I only thought that we had 3 different types of boerbean species. The dwarf boerbean, what's the one in the Eastern Cape called? Karoo, yes, Karoo boerbean, and then of course the weeping boerbean, which we see fairly often up in the Lowveld. But then there's another one called the bush boerbean, Scotia latifolia. And it looks fairly similar in terms of leaf structure and the bark, except it has a purple flower. Well, not quite purple, but not bright red like the others. So I thought that was quite interesting. And it occurs not too far away from here, so I'll have to go and try and find that tree at some point. But I'm really not sure what it was eating. But now it's gone. Bye, elephant. Okay, he didn't want to partake in our little afternoon. That's fine. Okay, shall we talk about a boerbean tree? Oh, do you know what else there is? Had the tree that we didn't know what it was, and now we know what it is. I'm just going to wait for Rebecca to call me back. But I can't get out to show you. There's Rebecca now. Sorry. So this is also one of the greviers. Can you see that? And it is the most sandpaper. Actually, I suppose I can maybe jump out because that elephant has gone so far. Shall I go and grab it quickly? Okay. They've all moved out of sight. Let me just make sure. Sorry, I can't hear Rebecca. she's going to have to call us back again. Let me go to the tree. Sorry, everyone, all the elephants have actually moved away. Grab some of these leaves and demonstrate. Anyway, so it's one of the grevias. It's a grevia villosa, which is quite interesting. They call it sometimes a mullen crossberry is another common name, but it's got exceptional sandpapery leaves. So we always talk about the square stem sand raisin, sandpaper raisin, or the sandpaper raisin bush, but that doesn't have leaves anywhere near to the extent that this one has. So I'm just going to rub it on my skin, just a little bit, just so you can see what it does to you. So going to answer the phone. Hello, Rebecca. Sorry, everybody. Go. So look, you could obviously see my skin. That's obviously quite gross because it shows how, no, that's an old leaf. You need a fairly young leaf to be able to do this. But if I had to pick up a piece of wood and strip the outer bark from it, you could really use this as sandpaper. I would almost imagine this is probably what a lion's tongue feels like. I think it also shows that I probably need to moisturize a little bit more during winter months. But anyways, it's really interesting to have found this one, and I haven't seen it before, and I've seen all the other grevia species. But we're going to carry on that way and go and check Ndlovu Dam to see what might be having a drink.
Look at this, everyone. This mother cheetah and her cubs have started to climb up into this fallen over marula tree. Remember earlier we said that she'd gone up onto that little mound of earth to get a better view of her surroundings. How's this for a viewpoint? And she can see way, way, way off into the distance from up there. And that little cub, the cub is now giving us a chance to figure out if it's a male or a female, everyone. Just gonna have a careful look with my binoculars. Oh, it's just got its legs. Looks like it might be a little girl. Still quite tough. They are still quite young, like I said. It's still quite tough to see. But how fantastic is this? A cheetah up on a fallen over tree. And looking off to her right, off in the distance, up on that hillside, there's a whole bunch of zebra and some wildebeest. And even a couple impala. They are very, very far away, so I don't think she'll go there right away. Oh, other little ones up as well? Oh, shame. How magnificent is that, everyone? Both cubs up in the tree now with Mum. It's a shame, they still look a little bit hunched up from the cold wind. Look at have a look at that female cheetah, everybody. Look at the mother. Look at how she's smelling that branch. And there's a little rattling testicular flying around, making that che, che, che sound. There's the alarm calling at the cheetah. Now, where that female cheetah is smelling, everybody, we have frequently seen male cheetah scent marking up on those spots. Now, typically, male cheetah, when they move around and they scent mark to mark their territory, they'll find very prominent points. So big trees like this, especially if they've fallen over, or even if they've just got a really big, thick trunk, rocks, any prominent point in their territory, they'll go and they'll scent mark, they'll spray their urine. And we've frequently seen male cheetah spraying their urine against this tree. So I wonder if she's just smelling to see which cheetah have been in the area. We spoke earlier about how male cheetah could be a threat to her youngsters, so she'll probably want to avoid any male cheetah. Look how their fur coats are being ruffled in the wind. And if the wind was blowing, it's died down a little bit now, but if it was blowing as strong as it was earlier, I'm pretty sure it would blow one of them off of their little perch. Maybe that's why she decided that now was the time to go up the tree and check to see if there was anything anywhere nearby. But it's been so windy, everybody. I think that she might be in for a bit of difficulty if she's going to hope to find some kind of prey in the open here. I think she'll, to find some food, she'll want to go into one of these denser thickets. But if she does that, of course, that then puts her at risk of being surprised in the dark by a bigger predator. So I don't think that'll be a good idea. I wonder if she's maybe not going to spend a bit more time up on this tree and then maybe look for a spot to settle down for the night. We're going to stick with her and see what she does.
So I know we're focusing on some of the smaller things today, but this thing that we're going to show you now is probably one of the key little animals out in these areas, and not just here, in different forms, different sizes, different shapes, different species in many of the savanna areas across the world. These are really cool. So what we got here, you'll notice all these very, very small little piles of grass. Little bits of cut grass. There's one here, there's one here, there. They're actually all over here. Okay, and what these is, underneath each one of these, there'll be a little tunnel. Okay, inactive at the moment, but that tunnel is made by harvester termites. Okay, so underneath here, just in what to us appears to be bare ground, there's these multiple colonies of harvester termites. These are the little guys that are so crucially important for aardvark during the winter months. So I'm just going to move it aside. We may not even see the tunnel because these are actually old. When I say, oh, there we go, there we go. John, I don't know if you can actually get in there. It's quite tough. I mean, this is very small. I've just moved it aside, and you'll actually see at the base over there. Okay, you see that indentation? That would actually be the entrance of the tunnel, which they've actually blocked up now, and that would probably just be to conserve moisture. So these aren't active at the moment, but very, very typically when you see these little parts, now I'll move those back over the nest for them, just in case they're worried about their housekeeping. Fritz has asked, what are termite mounds made up of, other than sand? Well, they actually, the saliva of the termites is actually what binds those sand particles together. So these ones, you get different kinds of nests. You get those big structures, those macrotermes, those classic ones that you see on African savannas, those huge ones. And most of those nests are just sand. If you break it open, it's sand. What a lot of them do is actually incorporate, and this is called a harvester termite, by the way, and there's, again, it's a common name. This is called Haedotermes, is the genus, and there's a number of different species. This one, Haedotermes mozambicensis, that we get here, it actually forms these underground nests, so you'll never see these big termite mounds that you traditionally know from other areas, but it actually forms these almost like cardboard-like layers inside the nest, and these can go down to, they've been recorded going down to over 6 meters in depth, to where they can actually get a bit of moisture. So there's different structures, but those typical termite mound structures that you see, that's normally comprised of sand that they've excavated out to create the tunnels, as well as plant material built into that. But it's just really exciting to see this, and like I say, it's on an area that at first glance appears to be completely barren, but just below the ground here there's this whole like intricate web of life going on underneath us. So yeah, that's just really nice, and it's just such a good example to see these little mounds. It's diagnostic of these termites at this time of year.
One of the little cubs has taken a bit of a tumble off of the tree. I don't know if it was the strong wind or if she's just a little bit cold. But it fell off the branch and had a very half-hearted attempt to climb back up. But shame, it looks so cold, and shame, there it is now, coming out into the open. And Mom's still scanning from her perch, and now that she's standing side on everyone, have a look at that tummy of hers. We spoke earlier about how we'd know when she was starting to get hungry. So look at how that tummy tucks up into her hips, that very elegant greyhound shape. And then look at her torso in front of, or her torso in front of that, and how skinny that looks. So she's Yeah, she does look like she's in need of some food. And certainly if not tonight, then definitely, if not this evening rather, before the sun goes down, then definitely tomorrow morning she's going to be on the lookout for some prey. There she goes down the road. Little ones in tow, looking anxiously over their shoulders, following mum. See how mum's using the road, everybody, as opposed to walking through that long grass. Just imagine for them, having that grass whacking them in the face the whole time. It's much easier to walk on the road, also easier for her to see if there's any danger up ahead. Felix, you're asking what the biggest prey is that a single cheetah can hunt. Felix, in the case of a female cheetah like this, I don't think she wouldn't normally go for anything much bigger than an impala ram. Because that already is it weighs more than she does, quite a bit more than she does. Maybe something like I've heard of a female cheetah trying to attack an Ngala bull, which would have been more than double her own body weight. Unfortunately, she didn't come off very well after that. She was quite badly injured. The Ngala, with its very sharp horns and its very powerful neck, turned around and gored her quite badly. It actually stuck its horns into kind of her armpit and split her leg open. So, yeah, they have to be pretty careful. Being so slenderly built, so skinny, tackling too big of an animal, especially if it's got horns, could be very dangerous for her. We're just going to try and move, see if we can get another view of these little youngsters. Just because they've gone behind. There we go. Going to join up with mum. Just going to start a move again, just around the corner. There we are. And what a lovely view that is. Look at that beautiful view. See that waterhole down the bottom there behind her? And I wonder if that's not where she's heading. We said we could see all those impala and zebra this time of year. Not too much surface water in this region, and so that's probably where she's going to go. That's where all those animals are congregating around, and if that's where the prey is, that's where she's going to have to go. Right, we're going to try and catch up with her again. So just give us a minute or two.
Djuma Game Reserve, that's where we are, and we're actually playing peekaboo with the sun. As we're driving down one of my favourite roads, we're just watching the sun come in and out through all the foliage and the vegetation. It's not that thick anymore. Remember how often we used to complain when it was summer? Isn't it beautiful? Now, we were at the den and we heard some alarm calls. So we left to investigate. We saw some female leopard tracks, but they're not fresh. They're definitely not fresh. So we did a loop and did not get lucky, I'm afraid. I also went back to that mound to try and find the lizard with the mongoose that I had earlier, but nobody's playing games. So we're on our way back to the den, and I'm hoping to see ribbon with cubs, of course. Corky would be a great one. We're hoping to see Corky's cub and Swazi. The decisions are still being made by the Sabi Sands, but it would be great if we could see him and figure out exactly what's around his neck. Jojo, that you've just asked, and that's the update. So the Sabi Sands representative is coming to our camp tonight, and hopefully we can find him at the den. That would be great. But I don't think it's a snare, everyone. I really don't think it's a snare. I think Swazi, being Swazi, has put his head somewhere he shouldn't, which is very typical of him. And I think it's wire. I think it's some sort of loose wire from a fence, or maybe discarded wire from a trash heap. I don't think it's a snare. It's loose, so at least we can all relax that it's not choking him. I really don't think it's hurting him. I don't think it's tight enough to sort of create a wound or embed into his skin. So it is going to be handled, or it is being handled, but I don't think it's a snare. I really just think it's wire that Swazi himself has maybe put himself in a tricky situation. Now this is Balanites Junction. Why? Well, there's a beautiful big Balanites there. It's one of my favourite trees on the reserve, and Balanites is actually the botanical name. You can call it a torchwood, and it's stunning. You see that fluted trunk? That's a really easy way to identify the Balanites tree, and that's where this junction gets its name from. Balanites Junction comes from the Balanites tree. As soon as you see a really fluted trunk like that, it almost looks like elephant trunks all intertwined with one another. That's when you know you're looking at a Balanites. Magical. But the reason we do come to this junction is because it's sort of where south meets east meets west, kind of. And I always search here for tracks. This is where we found Shadulu the other day, and this very much used to be Hukamuri's platform. And what's quite sad to announce to you all is I have not seen a single male leopard track in about 2 weeks. Hukamuri's not using it anymore. He has not been into Djuma, or at least not this way. Hukamuri. Mowati's really pushed him out. Really pushed him out. The 3-5. No way. I really don't think so. I've read some articles online about males leading the clan, but I'm not sure under what circumstances that happened. Hyenas have evolved to be matriarchal. They are female dominated, and the whole sort of hierarchy in society evolves around being the females being the leaders, and they obviously have a hierarchy amongst themselves. Now, let's just take Ribbon's two boys, for example, the two twins. They are males. So although they'll never be a matriarch, they will be high ranking. They've sort of been born into a wonderful world with silver spoons in their mouth, and because their mother is the matriarch, they will be high ranking. So they will have a good life. They will definitely receive respect and submissive behavior from other individuals because of who their mother is. But then it comes to decision time. At 2 years old, the males must make a decision, and that is to stay and be a natal male, or disperse and join another clan and then become an immigrant male. And the current statistics is 97% of all males disperse and 3% stay. So you've got to think, what's the advantages for staying? Well, for Ribbon's boys, the advantages are they will still be high ranked. They will get respect. They will probably always get first access to food. People will bow down to them. But the disadvantage is, I don't think many females would mate with them. They won't have mating opportunities. So most males disperse in order to meet new females with a bigger gene pool to sort of continue on your bloodline. Spread your wild oats, as they say. And therefore, I don't think a male could ever lead a clan. That's my opinion. Neva, you're asking, would the male cubs be higher ranked than Corky's cubs? Yes, absolutely. We don't know what Corky's cub is yet, what sex it is. It's just a little furry brown bear at the moment. But yes, they will be higher ranked. Even if Corky's cub is a female, the males will outrank them. But most likely, once they get older, the males will leave. But it really depends on Corky's rank, Neva. Remember, we're actually not sure where she sits. I think she sits after Intima and then after Heart. So I don't quite know whether she's 4th or 5th. We really need to see her. And that's why I'm heading back to the den right now. I'm almost there. But yes, Ribbon's cubs will definitely be higher ranked than Corky's cub. Hyena tracks. Nothing to be too excited about. We don't track hyenas, as you know. It's almost impossible. It's leopard tracks that I'm looking for. But I personally feel that we've still got a lot to learn about the hyenas out here. We're learning every day by watching them, observing them, recording them, but I still think there's elements of their social structure that we've still got to learn. They're very, very complex animals with a really high level of cognitive thinking. So I'm sure there's a lot we don't understand. Okay, I'm gonna make my way to the hyena den and fingers are crossed.
Well, speaking of hyenas, we were on our way to the Pridelands Clan's hyena den, which I was actually a bit concerned about. I thought it wasn't active because every time we've come here, there's been nobody home. But we have got 2 hyena cubs. You can just see the one because the other one is right in front of the car, and I don't know what it's doing. Don't touch it. Gert is shouting, and can you see it? Gert is now pointing his finger and saying, hey. That's the shaking that you can see because they just won't listen. And once they've learned to chew things, it's a disaster to try and curb this behavior. HB, it's really interesting with the hierarchies within hyenas. So the males obviously will come and go. Sorry, I'm just looking at Gert is still shouting. Is it chewing the tire? Oh, okay, that's fine. Sorry, I'm worried if it starts chewing the tire, you're going to hear it's going to be a problem. So with the male hyenas, the males obviously come and go as they please. But they work really, really hard to try and impress the high-ranking females. And, I mean, the female hyenas don't really need to tolerate the males at all if they don't want to. So I suppose the females have a fair sort of... oh, there it is. Look at this one. Did it come from underneath the car? I thought I mustn't start these naughty habits. Sorry, I'm very distracted as this one is very cheeky that's now walking back over to its friend. And hyenas are notorious for running underneath the cars, but I'm actually on my haunches trying to watch it, but now that's better that it's gone over there. So it was really funny to watch them in the Mara, how you would see the males coming up to the females being all submissive. I watched it a lot with Waffles, who was a matriarch at one point of the North clan in the Masai Mara. And often she'd show no interest, or she was quite dismissive of, males that weren't of her choosing. So, and she'll choose the best of the best males as well. So I think they have a fair say. But female elephants do the same thing. They don't really like to tolerate the young bulls, and they normally ignore them. They too also only want to mate with the best possible male elephant. Little one, can we see if you're a boy or a girl? I think that one looks like it might be a little girl. Just saw briefly the tip of the pseudo penis, but I don't know. I didn't get a good enough view. Maybe you can just help me there. But I think it was a female. I'm going to follow them now. I don't know how our signal is going to be. Sorry, and I'm also just sitting back down. Let's see if we can keep following them. They're going back to the den now, but most of them have moved off. So I did want to tell you what happened this morning. So as we were leaving camp, we did a couple of loops and laps because I heard a leopard, so we were trying to figure out where this leopard was. And one hyena was still in camp, and it came out, and we followed it for a bit, and then another hyena came out with a cub. So they've been causing havoc. I told you about the hyena that's blind in the left eye. She's got her 2 sub-adults following her around now, and they're almost spending no time at the den at all. So I don't really know who's left. It's been very difficult to try and understand which hyena cubs belong to which adult, because we never see the adults at the den. Only on 2 different occasions have I seen adults at the den. So it's been really difficult to try and put this family tree together, but we are still working on it.
We are here at Cheetah waterhole, where there's been a bit of a fight between 2 Waterbuck bulls. Now, as I've said to you a number of times before, these can be potentially more fatal than many other fights, and that's because they have such sharp rapier horns, and they get pretty territorial over the water. I think this is the victor we're looking at now. Doesn't look particularly pleased with himself. Anyway, there's also... Oh, he's going to have a lie down. He's exhausted after his fight. Well, I suppose if you're victorious, you get to do that. Up in the tree next to us is a leopard orchid, which we've looked at many times, but unusually, I think it's unusual, I don't recall seeing it before, this one is flowering in winter, which seems very odd to me. There we are. There is the flowers. There are the flowers of the leopard orchid. You can hear the red-billed buffalo weavers calling in the background. And there were a whole lot of squirrels waiting on the trunk of this tree, but what's quite interesting is that the sun has obviously just sunk, and so they've now gone back into their little homes. No, Myrtle the turtle, I don't think it's flowering because of global warming. I don't think we've had a particularly warm winter. We've had a little bit of rain this winter. I think it's been a pretty average winter. I don't think it's been very cold or very hot or very warm. So, I don't know if you heard that. There was a saddle-billed stork flying over. Anyway, you know, to draw a conclusion like that would be pretty dangerous because, you know, there could be 1,000 different things causing this particular orchid to flower. The big thing also would be to look at whether or not all the other orchids in the area were flowering, and they aren't. This is the only one I've seen that is flowering. But even then, to attribute it quite suddenly to global warming, I think would be tricky. But you might find that what would happen is that the winter season will be shorter than normal, and then you could pick up a trend over time as to, let's say, the knobthorn trees start flowering earlier and earlier each year. Then you might be able to pick up a trend and attribute it to some kind of climate change or global warming. But I think one isolated leopard orchid doth not a pattern make that we can draw a conclusion from. Veronica, I think you'll probably find that the seed pod was eaten by a baboon. The baboon or monkey then went and sat in the crook of this dead tree, where it relieved itself in a fertile mass of foul and evil-smelling omnivore dung, and therein the seed germinated, and so became the orchid that it is today.
So we're back with our two adventurous hyena cubs that are now strolling back to the den where they're supposed to be, because they're nowhere near of age to be roaming around unattended. But I mean, you try and tell any young animal that has been told by the adults, by its mother, to stay. Oh, you're going to chase a little francolin. There's some crested francolins that have been enjoying the den while there's been no one home. And I think that's what that hyena was walking towards. So there will be one panicked bird, I'm sure, flying up at any moment. So these cubs are not particularly big. You can see that their legs are still quite dark. They're just starting to get a bit of a shaggy coat now. And I would say they're about 5 months old. Normally when they're about 4 months or so, their coats are still quite smooth, but they've got the spots and the sort of dark feet and very, very dark muzzle. And then between about, I suppose, 5 and 8 or 9 months or so, they just grow a little bit taller. They're not actually that big at all. And their coats get very, very shaggy. But you can see they're not as fluffy as some of the other hyena cubs that we've been seeing. But again, we haven't seen them like we've seen like all of you have seen the hyena cubs at Djuma, where, we're able to follow them from a very, very young age. But it will get to that point with these hyena. Hello, as you can see, they're starting to really relax around the cars now. Don't touch the card. You see when I snapped my fingers, it looked up. So I need to do something that it doesn't like the sound of. Not to be ugly, but just to learn, because they're intelligent enough to know. But they can't help it sometimes. Dov, I've never seen it. I just don't think I've maybe spent enough time with hyenas to see whether a female hyena, a matriarch ever, no, maybe not a matriarch, but a female hyena ever changes clans. I don't know if other clans would be as accepting, but I reckon if you were super low ranking and you were bullied all the time and you were never getting any food, and I don't know, maybe there are a whole other circumstances, perhaps. Nature is weird and it does strange things all the time. Again, we've seen a lot weirder things happen in nature. So I think it could happen. I don't think that it happens very often though. It's obviously the males that go out and will potentially join up with a new clan. They don't normally stay in the same clan. But there they are, and now I can't see them, and it bothers me because I don't know what they're going to pull. Gat's a lot higher than I am. And he says there he's keeping an eye on them and watching them. But they're very sweet though. What I am worried about though is that I haven't seen that smaller hyena, and I don't know if you remember, maybe for those of you that have just joined in, some of the viewers who have got some screenshots can share them, but there was a hyena that was definitely about 3 or 4 months old. It still had quite a smooth coat. It was just the one. There could have been more in here, but I've only seen it once and never seen again. And you'd think with these two out and about and exploring, and with the others being of similar exploration age, that they would come out when these two are playing around. But that hasn't happened. And I suppose they could have also moved to another den.
My little one hasn't come out either. But the other two have. Almost in the same position as before, give or take. Everybody's snoozing. I think I've decided that Corky must be nocturnally suckling. I don't know the reasons why. I can only speculate, but there's no way a cub that young. We have had a brief glimpse of it. I managed to get some photos of it. But there's no way a cub that young could survive without regular intakes of milk. And Corky's very habituated. She's used to cars, and she's also been a mother in the past. She gave birth to Plonk, who we sadly believe is no longer with us, in September 2018, and he was last seen in August 2019. So there's a high chance that he's no longer with us. It's a little bit too soon for him to have dispersed. Good morning. So yes, Corky's been a mother before. And she definitely didn't nocturnal suckle then, so I'm really not sure why, but the cub would not survive otherwise. And we did spend some time with it this morning, and it looks well and it looks strong. It's tiny compared to these two, but it looks very well. Nancy, this is picture perfect. Just so cute. Every time I make a decision about which one's dominant, I change my mind. There has to be a more dominant one. Jenna, you're asking about striped hyena. We don't get striped hyena here, I'm afraid. I've never seen one. I would love to. I'd actually love to tick all the Hyenidae family off my bucket list, which is striped, brown. Well, I've seen the spotted and the aardwolves. They're all on my wish list. But no, we don't get them here, I'm afraid. What are you smelling, Ribbon? Now it's strange, sometimes this den, which is a communal den, is a hubbub of activity. But today it's quiet and only ribbons here. No Sutu, no Comet, no Ndebele, no Swazi. So the stakeout begins. I'm going to sit here looking for either Swazi or the appearance of that little cub.
We've been following this female cheetah as she moves down the hill. She has headed in the direction of that waterhole that we saw her kind of silhouetted against a little bit earlier. And she's been walking through, see this very long greenish, brownish grass behind her. And sometime from when we last saw her until now, the cubs have gotten separated from her. And she's now sitting here calling to them. Let's listen. Oh, she's now stopped, it seems, but every now and then she just gives this little high-pitched bird-like chirp. Just trying to get them some direction as to where she is. Now just imagine for those tiny little cubs in that long grass. I mean, if the adult female cheetah basically disappears in it, imagine for them. They get absolutely swallowed up in that long grass. Now, I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned about just yet. I don't think that they are too far behind her. It might just be with this very strong wind that they can't hear her calling. And I'm sure that they will catch up to her soon. Nicola, you're asking if I know of any cheetah moms that have lost their cubs. Nicola, absolutely. It is unfortunately quite a common occurrence with cheetah. If you were watching this morning or yesterday afternoon, Nicola, that female cheetah that we were spending time with, she also had 2 little cubs, as you may remember if you were watching. She used to have 4, so she lost 2 of her youngsters. This particular female cheetah, the litter that she had before this litter of 2, it was initially, I think, 3, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 also that she gave birth to, and only one of those, Nicola, survived to independence. So unfortunately, it is quite a common occurrence for mother cheetah to lose their youngsters as they grow up, and part of the reason why they give birth to so many cubs. Certainly more on average than something like oh, listen, here come the cubs, here come they come. Did you hear that high-pitched twitter? There they are. Oh, there's one. Where's the other one? Oh dear. You're gonna have to go back and find your second little one, Mom. See how she's looking around? Now, the sun has gone down, as you may notice, everybody. And of course, like we've said before, this is the time of day when... Oh, there's the other one. Oh, they're all together. Okay. One big, happy family all together. I think that as it gets darker and darker, the chances of her actually trying to hunt are going to get less and less. And we will probably want to give her some space for the night. So I think we'll take in a last little view of this mother cheetah and her 2 little ones. They've provided us with some spectacular scenes this afternoon, sitting silhouetted in that long grass against the mountains and then climbing that tree. How amazing was that? So I think as Mom heads down into that riverbed, followed by her little ones, we're going to say goodnight to them. We're going to go see what else we can find. I think that spot for them is going to be just perfect. It's not too dense in there, but there's enough cover. There's enough cover in there that she'll be able to keep her youngsters safe, but she won't be too kind of hemmed in. The chances of her getting crept up upon by a lion or a leopard are not too much. Right, we're going to leave them be. We're going to go out and see if we can find some lions for you this evening.
We keep thinking we hear alarm calls. I actually do think there's a predator nearby us. but the alarm calls were not frequent enough to race away from the den and try and figure out exactly where they were coming from. It's not easy trying to determine direction of sound. Humans are not very well equipped for that. If you look at our ears, if you look at hyena ears, they're more satellite shaped. They're large. That's for sort of channeling all the sound into their eardrum. Okay, we're still going to sit here, but I believe that Dylan has finally found what he's been looking for.
So finally, it's been a bit of a journey. We've had clutch problems on the vehicle, so we've been kind of like limping around following these lines, and they've almost been going faster than what we've been going. But what we've got here is a mating pair of lions. There's the lioness down in the road there, and this is the male on the right. I think that's fairly obvious. Lioness, no mane. Male with this nice big black mane, and very typical of these Kalahari lions with this dark mane. We actually didn't even see him at first. We were focused on the lioness down the bottom there because we'd been following tracks for about 3-4 kilometers down there, and we were focused on her, and then he just stepped out just to the right of us over here. So we were actually very lucky. He stepped out, looked down towards the female, and then went and lay down again. So I don't know if he's just starting to court her. Yeah. Michelle says it's nice how he blends right in, and exactly. I mean, in fact, that's one of the theories that's been proposed for these the manes on lions. And there's a whole lot of different things that you can go into there. But one of them is that it actually aids in camouflage for hunting in it. And there's this common fallacy that goes around that the females are the ones that do all the hunting and the males don't. Males are superb hunters, and particularly when it comes to large, dangerous prey, buffalo, giraffe, rhino in areas where they occur, young elephant, things like that, hippo, your males often swing the hunts in favor of the pride. And also when they leave a pride, they 18 months, 2 years old, give or take, and they've got to fend for themselves. They, when they move away from the pride, normally from pressure from the dominant male or their father, then they've got to be able to fend for themselves for another 2-3 years sometimes before they can actually take over a pride of their own. So no, males are brilliant hunters. So make no mistake there. Yeah, she's just ambling down the road now. But watch, he won't let her get too far. But see, I don't know how long they've been together for. It could be 2-3 days already. I've absolutely no idea. Dizzy has asked, are these the first Kalahari lions we've seen? We've seen lions a number of times already, and I'm just trying to think if we've seen any of the big males. Maybe it might be the first time, eh? I don't know, Jandre? Oh, yes, we did see males at the eland kill, but young males. No, the first male. Yes, we've got males. Yeah, this is the second time we've seen big males now. Yeah. Come on, yawn. There he goes. But he's going to get up now. One of our colleagues on the Leopard was talking about yawning on lions, and that often signals that they're going to start getting up and moving in it. So there's a strong chance that this male is actually going to move down to that female shortly. Another yawn. Don't drop me here. Again, I'll be right at some point. If we wait long enough, he'll get up. But let another lion onto the scene and he'll be up in a flash. It'll be... They always look so peaceful and so docile in it. And they normally are, I guess. But I love the colours on a lion. You know, you think a lion is this kind of tawny golden colour, but it's not. I mean, if that male is charcoal and grey and russet and cream, almost borderline orange in some places over there. And the tongue, big and pink. There's a lot of game activity in this area, a lot of zebra activity, oryx, eland, and tons of warthogs and also kudu. So a pair like this, it's unlikely that they'll be hunting, but certainly if something stumbles across them, they'll have a go at it, especially the lioness. Jasmine, who is 9, has just asked, have I ever had an animal jump onto my vehicle? I haven't, and hopefully I don't. Jean-Andre doesn't count because he needs to be with us to do the filming. But I've never had an animal jump onto the vehicle yet, and we aim to keep it that way. Just out of interest, while we're sitting here, Jean-Andre, I don't know, are you able to go wide for that sky? Just have a look at this, just so you all can understand this, what we are in for over the coming weeks, or days rather. See, look at that beautiful scenery. So those mountains you're looking at, the highest point in the reserve is right up on the top there, but look at those fingers of cloud licking up from the southern horizon. And that cold front, I was chatting to people at the University of Cape Town earlier today, and they were laughing. They said, we up here at Tswalu are in for a rough time because it's raining down there already. So there is a huge cold front creeping up on us. So watch the space for details. It should be entertaining if nothing else. And there are some forecasts of snow in the area too, which will be crazy if we can get it, but you never know.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family. WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting.
And so we have seen many zebras today. And I might be sounding slightly over-exuberant for this sighting, but gosh, it's been a long time since we've seen an actual animal. But here we have zebras. Now, the zebra closest to us is in fact injured. You look on the bottom of its back right leg. See there, BK, or is it behind a bush? No, you can't see it there. I don't think that was inflicted by a predator, but it's possible. I suspect rather that he kicked it on something while running away from a predator, or was possibly kicked by another zebra. Oof, it's actually quite a nasty wound. I don't think that's a zebra kick. It's on both sides. Looks like he was bitten there. If a lion didn't try and take a chunk out of his foot as he ran by or something. He's got no cuts on his backside, so it's unlikely that the lion had a go at him. Anyway, he and his family are lurking around here in these clearings. Their colours are lovely, I think, in this sort of vegetation. Felix? That's an interesting question. I suppose she could decide not to mate with the stallion if she didn't want to. All she would have to do is walk forward. In a lot of these animals, remember that in order for the male to mate, the female's got to stand still. If she doesn't stand still, it's nigh on impossible for the male to mate. And in the case of zebra, the females are as big as the males, just about. And so it's not like he can physically overpower her. So yeah, if she doesn't want to mate, I don't suppose she has to. But you see, normally what will happen is that she'll come into estrus and she'll actually seek him out. And so estrus is not concealed like it is in species like human beings. Estrus is very obvious. So he doesn't suddenly decide that one evening he's feeling amorous and he'd like to mate, and then go seeking out favors from his wives. It doesn't work like that. He only is inspired to mate when the hormones of estrus are floating around his wife, so when they come into estrus, when they come into season, and that then sets a process going in his physiology, and he becomes amorous, for want of a better term, and the mating occurs, because she almost initiates it. In species like human beings, where estrus is entirely concealed for various complicated and very interesting reasons, you'd have a different situation where the male will try and I'm not only talking about human beings here, there are a number of other species, I just can't think of one off the top of my head right now, where the male and the female will mate on a continuous basis, without there being an estrus necessarily. And in that particular case, you have a situation where the male might try and force himself on the female, but in a lot of species, it's simply not possible because of the mechanism involved. Primates, bonobos mate all the time with each other. Their estrus is entirely hidden as well. I think it is as well in chimpanzees. But in chimps, where the male is much bigger than the female, I suspect that he probably is able to force himself on her if the fancy so takes him. I don't know how common it is. I suspect it probably does happen, though. In the case of elephants, for example, she's really got to almost reverse into the male in order for him to mate. And while he can certainly bully a female because the bulls are so much bigger and do some damage, it's just unlikely that he'd try unless there was some kind of receptiveness being demonstrated by the female or by the cow. It's a really interesting topic. I was trying to think of some non-primate examples where estrus is hidden. I know that porcupines have to mate every day in order for the female to cycle, and that may well be a hidden estrus.
So, okay, we've had an interesting development here. That hyena, that big one, that is anal pasting. That's quite awesome to have a look at. We'll have to see if we can see a little pasting. Oh, there are lions calling in the distance, but something has given that hyena a fright. That is an adult, and it was just calling maybe about 5 minutes ago in the distance, and then arrived at the den with another cub. And this morning we did follow one hyena with a single cub for a couple of 100 meters before it disappeared in the direction of the den, but didn't quite make it to the den. So this is exciting. I've only seen 2 females at the den before. I'll have to go back and check my images to see if this one is one that we've seen. That's a little one. I'm just in 2 minds whether I move forward or if I just stay where I am, because I'm hoping that they just come out towards us and into the open. But if she turns around, then I might change my mind. Okay, I'm going to quickly do a little bit of repositioning just so we can get a clear view so you can take some screenshots. So it's still very difficult to determine how many members are in this clan. And it would be nice, like I said, I would love to see the adults at the den with all the cubs so that we can see the social interactions and figure out who's higher ranking and who's higher ranking. Here we go. I'll stop like this. This should be good. Sorry everyone, it seems as though we're having a bit of technical trouble, so I'm going to send you across to Dylan to keep you entertained while we fix our problems.
Look how beautiful these cats are. We're really nursing this vehicle in its clutch at the moment. It's like barely keeping it alive. But anyway, we're here. It's a long walk home. It's interesting that he went down, but he didn't approach right up to her, because she can get quite grumpy during the breeding time. And about 5 minutes ago, there was a small little group of springbuck that crossed the road just at the bottom, at the far end of the road over there. But that would be way too much effort for these cats, unless those springbuck really like ambled onto them. And it looks like this male's got quite a bit of he looks quite stiff. So, in other words, his legs look sore. And so we'll just see what happens, you know. Yeah, sorry, so we can chuckle there. Yeah. Come, Smith. Yeah, you really watch your words these days. She seems to be listening to something down there, or she's just dozing off. I'll have a look with binoculars. No, she's listening to something. Yeah, the springbuck are long gone. But you never know, you could always get something else that moves up. And while we're here, just so you know, Melanie is still with us. She has walked a long road. She's looking somewhat less than appealing. But yeah, she's still here. So we haven't abandoned her, and she hasn't abandoned us. But for those of you who have been with us, Melanie's been with us for 6 weeks now. And she is actually a summer melon. And the seeds are going to be drying out inside now, so I actually want to gather all the seeds and count them. But that's just out of interest. She's still around. So the light on that male is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Almost looks like she wants to get up and move. There we go. No, maybe not. I think she's going to move soon. She's kind of keeps looking around, shifting her position. Good yawn. Look how that black on the back of the ear stands out. Very, very, very distinct. Good temperature for them to be active now. There we go, she's moving. That's it. They can move silently. And that's drawn his attention. It's like, where are you going? I wonder if she's not, because she was listening to something in that case. So the direction that she's taking now, there is a waterhole out in that direction. But from here it's about 3 kilometers away, and she'll have to make a loop around a small hill to get there. But it could be where she's going. Or alternatively, remember I said she was listening to something down that side. It could be that she's, that they've had 3-4 days of mating, and it's kind of like at the end of it. So she might just be a bit peckish and wanting something to eat. Apart from male lion. She's disappearing into that thicket there. I've got my eye on the male. If he gets up, I'll... Yes, that camouflage in there. You never know. She could have heard something. It could be actually... She looks very attentive there. Oh. I think she's actually stalking something. I kid you not. I think she's actually stalking something. Let's just give this a mo. It may be incredibly difficult to see. Clearly, it's incredibly difficult to see, because I can see nothing. But let's just see. Okay, the male's moving now. He might just go mess the whole thing up, as they sometimes do. But I'm just going to stand up a little. Not stand up. Okay, let's just see there. Let's just see. This is really good. This could be very, very good. I'm going to just try to see if I can get a better view of the female, the lioness. Because she, like I say, she just started moving in a very slinky manner there. Almost as if she was going down to begin stalking something. Like I say, there could be something there that we don't even know exists. Well, we know it exists, but we don't know what it is what I meant. And that could be anything. And remember I mentioned lots of hartebeest in this area, gemsbok or oryx. Okay, she's way across to the left-hand side now. I've just got a pair of ears sticking out from where I'm standing. He's actually making a beeline to her, so if we follow him, you'll see her. So, yeah, whatever. We've got some lions also roaring in the far, far, far distance, far north of us. Yeah, so I don't think she was stalking. I was getting all excited there for a moment. I thought, hey, here we go. What a scene, eh? What a scene. Okay, there she goes, directly behind him now. You can just see her ears sticking out there. She is definitely peckish. She's definitely looking around for something, but it could be that when she started that sort of semi-stalk, that there was something that had attracted her attention, or she had heard. But as you can see, she's definitely gone to ground, lying down. There's not going to be much action, certainly not from the hunting perspective. Gosh, what an awesome sighting that was, eh? Broken clutch and all. We survived. And help is on its way, but we'll have to actually get to it. It's not going to come all the way down here. But with Jandre pushing and myself steering, I think we should manage just fine.
Welcome back, everybody. We managed to find the lions that we've set out to try and find for you this evening. So from a male lion trying his luck with a lioness to a group of young male lions, we were able to spot them from the other side of these little mounds of earth, and it appears to be 5 sub-adult males. Just based on the region that we're in, it must be the 5 sub-adult males of the Ngala Pride. And once again, without their mothers. Oh look, there's the third one, just popped his head up there on the right. See the one on the left yawning, and I'm wondering now, with the sun having gone down and darkness having approached, that maybe these lions are going to start to get up and move around a little bit. I don't know how long they've been here, how long they've been without their mothers. Doubtless that they went off to try and catch something to eat, much like the mother cheetah was doing earlier, and they left their youngsters here to avoid having them botch any attempts that they made at hunting. See the one male going off over there. Camden, you're asking if these lions are near to that cheetah we saw earlier. Camden, they are probably in a straight line, maybe about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 kilometers away. So a good distance away from her. That being said though, these lions, if they had the need to, if their mothers came back and they led them in that direction, they could cover this distance very easily in the night. And remember earlier we said that there was that waterhole there, and that with us coming into winter, into the dry season, well, we're pretty much in the middle of the dry season, all the herbivorous animals that need water are going to be congregating around that water source. And if those lionesses were not successful in the area that they were hunting, which we think is somewhere to our east, apparently there were tracks of them there this morning, they might head to the west, which is in the direction of where that mother cheetah is, where the water is, and where we could see some pretty big herds of zebra and wildebeest this afternoon. So, hoping that mother cheetah has her wits about her tonight, if those lions, or if these lions do decide to go in that direction. Yeah, and hoping that doesn't happen. Because of course if they do find her and her little ones in that little riverbed where they've gone, they could be in for a bit of trouble. But like we said earlier, that riverbed was pretty, although it is a depression in the ground and it is a narrow space where where the cheetah of course would have been sheltered from the wind. I think it's open enough that, oh, there's a little nightjar flying around behind the lion. Did you see that? I think that it is open enough that if those lions do get into that riverbed, the mother cheetah should be able to detect them pretty early and get her little ones away. We spoke earlier this morning about young cheetah and how they're not... Oh, listen! Did you hear that, everybody? Could you hear that snarling? And did you see how the youngsters looked off to the left and the ones just flopped down? It's obviously not interesting enough for him. Apparently it's just too windy. The wind is still blowing a little bit, just too windy to hear, but there was a horrible noise. It sounded like two lions slapping each other around. So I wonder if maybe there is another lioness that is here with these youngsters. And perhaps that young male went to go and try and rub up against her just to say hello, and she greeted him with a snarl. May have been that he was a bit over eager and stepped on her, or maybe even tried to suckle. Now these lions will of course be long past the age where they are still suckling, but every now and then a sub-adult lion will try its luck and get battered away for its efforts. We haven't been able to, well, we did see that one stand up and he didn't look like he was super skinny, but I don't know, we haven't seen the lionesses, so we don't know if they have been successful in the night or not. Maybe I had added some fuel to the fire. Maybe that lioness is a little bit hungry and then a bit irritated even more by the fact that this youngster was stepping all over her. Of course, these young males, you've seen them a couple of times with us, the two of them being a little bit older than the other three, all 5 of them still being too young to really take part in a hunt, and so they pretty much just, whenever the lionesses do catch food, they get stuck in and pretty much take most of the carcass for themselves, even though they don't do much of the hunting themselves. And so that might be wearing as well on that we presume the lioness had just snarled at them, adding fuel to the fire for her being irritated at them. We are maybe going to try and move around the other side and see if we can't get a view of if there are maybe more lions on that side. So hopefully when you come back to us, we'll have something for you.
Are still in the exact same position. I'm not sure if any of you are surprised, but we are in IR, at least infrared. The most amazing piece of technology for wildlife. Completely non-intrusive. We can view these animals without shining lights on them. That's why your picture is now in black and white. You can just see that small reflection of the special retina, or the special layer, sorry, on Ribbon's retina. She keeps looking up. I think she hears things, and I wonder if more hyenas will join soon. But I touched on this earlier when I mentioned hyenas are really, really intelligent. And basically the size of an animal's frontal cortex is believed to be completely connected to their social intelligence when you look at social behaviors and cognitive abilities in animals. And hyenas have a frontal cortex which is much larger than chimps. Oh, you can hear the young one. I'm not sure if you can hear them. I think it's a young one inside the den. Can you hear it? So yes, the hyena's frontal cortex is on par with primates, and a study at Duke University in Durham, I don't know if people from Durham speak like that, but I feel like they should, in England, showed that a captive pair of hyenas actually performed better at problem solving and social cooperation than chimpanzees. And more amazingly, they did it silently, completely silently, whereas chimps needed to communicate verbally. Dove, I don't know. This is the first sign of movement that we've actually seen. I think they're snoozing. They fall asleep, latched onto mum's nipple all the time. It's very comforting for them. It's probably very warm. They're full. And you know the feeling, Dove, when you're full, you often feel really sleepy. You want to have a little rest after eating a big meal. I think they're just feeling really snoozy. Maybe occasionally drinking some milk, but oh, one is awake. Hello. Origami. Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. They are known to urinate and defecate on themselves, which is not very pleasant. And recently they pulled an impala head, an adult impala female head, into their den, which means they are probably sleeping right next to that rotten flesh. So yes, they do smell bad. I can smell the hyena den from far away, and I often know when it's active. It's not pleasant. But in camp, when I'm walking in the dark, I always have my torch. That's the rule we have in camp. But I can smell Swazi before I see him. I know that he's around, because he's always in camp, before I actually lay eyes on him. He has a very unique smell. Good old Swazi. Oh, everybody's awake now, Dove. It's time to annoy Mum as much as we can. They were both sitting on her head yesterday and she still slept. She's very tolerant. Now, if that baby is crying inside the den, it must mean it's awake and it's hungry. Marge, you're asking about hyena teeth. Spotted hyenas, because I'm not sure they're all the same, so I should be clear. Spotted hyenas, I believe, have 34 teeth, or at least in the range of 32 to 34, but I'm sure it's 34. I'm actually just going to double check this on my mammals app, but I'm sure it's 34, more than lions and leopards. They've got very heavy set jaws, and one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom. Not the strongest, but one of the strongest, at least for mammals. And their skull can weigh over 3 kilograms. It's a very, very heavy skull. Yes, my mammal app says 34, the dental formula. And if you can imagine crunching through bone, the thought of it sends shivers down my spine. I think human teeth would just break into pieces, but hyenas can just crunch right through. It's amazing when you really think about it. Normally Ribbon starts to get up at this time, and this was a time of night that we saw Swazi yesterday, but sadly we've not seen him today. I don't want any of you to worry though, he will be fine. I'm sure he's in our kitchen helping himself to dinner. I wish we could leave a camera here overnight and see what happens. See what time Corky arrives. Linda, it's very precious. Oh, Mum's awake. There's the teeth. All 34 of them. Yes, Linda, it's so precious, and I do spend a lot of time here. But I think it's important. Every day is different. There's days we come and no one's around. Nicely done, Davi. Ribbon yawned, almost on cue. But yes, I'd love to know what happens here during the night. I really would. Like a fly on the wall. Will Corky come? Will the cubs come out? Do other adults come? Do they frolic? Do they have fun? Oh, I'd love to know. The fun is starting, I think. And I mentioned this earlier, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but the interaction between these two, the two boys, is very, very different from the way they were interacting with Corky's little one. They were very tender towards it. Oh, using Mum as a pillow. They were not aggressive with the little one. They did not bite. They were really, really tender towards it. But as each day goes by, this pair are just looking more and more like hyenas. Oh, Mama's standing up. It can only mean one thing. I don't think you're going to get any milk there, little one. This just shows they're very much nocturnal animals. Sun has set, it's dark, and Ribbon is awake. So I'm going to stay here just in case anything exciting happens, but for the last few minutes of the drive, we're going to send you across to Mr. Hendry.
We are sitting with a herd of elephants, and I'm just going to be quiet so you can hear them because the view is not fantastic at this stage. Okay, the one in front is not turning towards us. Okay. It was. You just sneak up. It's just quite nice to be in amongst them at night like this. You don't want to shine any light on them. There's a little one there. Let me just switch off. That's all infrared light. There's no artificial light on it. Just roll back. There's one coming out now, BK. To the right. I think. Can't actually see anything. It's pitch black in there. Can you see anything? No. Yes, there we go. No, left. That's it. Molly, an elephant's eyesight, I think, is roughly similar to ours. It's probably slightly better than ours in the dark, because I don't think they see in colour. So they've probably got a few more light-sensitive rods in their eyes than we do. But I don't think they see particularly well in the night. They don't really need to, you know. Such a lovely sound all around us. Should pop out in front of us now. There we go. Tessa, I'm not entirely sure how much brain activity there is in a sleeping elephant, but it's not like a dolphin or a swift. They definitely shut down more than those two do, as far as I'm aware. And, you know, they will fall asleep, fully asleep. They'll just wake much more easily than you or I would. So there's that whole story of, you know, dolphins have to be able to sleep only one half of the brain. I think it's dolphins, isn't it? Because they've got to keep moving in the water, otherwise they drown. So they can't fully go to sleep, whereas an elephant doesn't have to do that. It can just stop and go to sleep. Standing up, little ones lie down, but otherwise it's, you know, it can just kind of stop and go to sleep. Same with a swift, which often sleeps on the wing, so only half the brain can go to sleep at a time. Let's just look through here, BK. We might get one last view. There's a little one. Hi, little guy. Sorry to bug you. Have a good evening. I hope you get some nice pudding with your supper of dry grass. We're now into that slightly awkward stage where we're ending the show, but we don't have an animal. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for your questions, your comments, for joining us on this lovely safari. We'll see you tomorrow at 0600. Bye-bye.